Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. 6 degrees of separation is the idea that all people are 6 connections away from each other. If this idea holds true, you will learn tonight from this presentation that you're somehow connected to some of the most amazing Puerto Rican women. Tonight's event is very special. Among our viewers, we have members from the National Conference of Puerto Rican Women from all chapters throughout the United States, and members from our national chapter as well. Welcome to all of our sisters, and send us a chat telling us from where you're joining us. And of course, our loyal friends who follow our events when we put together with so much love for you. Thank you for your continued support. Before we begin, and I pass this to our chapter's president, here are some housekeeping reminders. Please mute your microphones at all times. Adjust your view, selecting your preferred mode using the icon on the top of your screen. It looks like a little box with little dots. Use the chat box to share all your comments and statements. We will try to address those at the end of the presentation. And regarding the 6 degree, I found my connection with our special guest. Antonia, we share our same alma mater, Emmanuel College. With that said, I'm gonna leave you with Dr. Anaida Colon Muñiz. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. We are so happy to be here today with all of you, and especially with our special guest, Antonia Jiménez. We have our board I'd like to introduce, as well as our committee members who are here today. I am the president, as Marjorie mentioned, of this year. And we have our second vice president, Marjorie Patton, who is in charge, of course, of all of the events and activities and introduced and opened for us today. Gloria San Miguel is our second vice president, and she is here today as well. She takes care of all of our media and our website and is very busy all the time with recordings and sharing our work. We have Marie Nubia Feliciano, who's our secretary and keeps us all well communicated. And we have Sonia Lamas, who is our treasurer, who keeps us in good fiscal shape. So those are our board members, and for our committee, we had Sonia, myself, but also a very special person who we've been happy to have join us as a member is Grisel Benitez Hodge, who is with us today as well. And Ana Jimenez, who unfortunately is not with us at this time, but also joined us in planning this event. So thank you so much for being here. And now we will begin with Sonia introducing the event.
Good evening, I'm Sonia, and as part of our wonderful program today, we will begin by giving a backdrop about several distinguished Puerto Rican women. I am excited to present to you a PowerPoint about these impressive Puerto Rican women living in the United States side, who have broken barriers, contributed to our well-being, and opened opportunities for other Puerto Ricans to follow despite the challenges that they faced. Most of them address social, linguistic, racial, and cultural differences. They face poverty, bias, and racism, and still move forward in an effort to help others and improve the status of Puerto Ricans and give us a voice. You will see how these women were and are brave enough to enter many different political, social, educational, and artistic arenas to challenge the status quo and succeed, making us proud as Puerto Rican women. I present to you Orgullo Boricua, Puerto Rican Women Making a Difference, narrated by Dr. Anaida Colon Muñiz. Following the PowerPoint, you will meet one such woman, our special guest, Antonia Jiménez, and have a chance to learn more about her life and work. Enjoy the presentation.
Orgullo Boricua. At this time, we will highlight some amazing Puerto Rican women who are trendsetters and who have helped communities throughout the United States. First, I begin with a poem by Julia de Burgos, one of our most renowned poets. She says, "I myself went my route. I wanted to be as men wanted that I was, an attempt at life, a game of hide and seek with my being. But I was made of presence, and my feet flat on the promising land that couldn't resist walking backwards, and they kept going and going, mocking the ashes to reach the kiss of the new trails. Definitely, new trails has been part of our history. Trailblazing women, trendsetting women, and men, of course. But we are focusing on our history in the diaspora. And we think of it as starting at 1898, but it started way before that, since the 1700s. Puerto Ricans fighting for or helping to fight for American independence, the American Civil War, meeting with Cubans in New York to conspire for independence from Spain. In the early 1900s, working the fields of Hawaii. And after being made citizens, joining the draft and being sent to fight every single war since. But not just militarily, Puerto Ricans have been really instrumental in shaping and helping and contributing to the social and civic and educational efforts in the United States, in the diaspora, forming communities and contributing in innumerable ways. So the women that we're going to talk about have definitely made their presence known, and we're going to highlight them. For example, Pura Belpré, who was the first Puerto Rican librarian. She was a writer, a collector of folk tales. She was born in Puerto Rico and wound up staying in New York since 1920, when she was hired to diversify the staff of the library system. She began storytelling throughout the city in Spanish and English, and she broke barriers, advocating for bilingualism and for buying Spanish language books and implementing programs about our holidays. She wrote Pérez y Martina, which is a beloved story about a cockroach and a mouse who fall in love. You may have heard that story. And she is seen here telling stories to the children and bringing forth some of these old folk tales, as well being a person who has influenced literature for Latinos, because now there is something called the Pura Belpré Award, which is given to authors of children's books that actually portray our Latino students in a positive way and our culture in a positive way. And for this, she was also given the Mayor's Award for Arts and Culture. We have Sor Maria Isolina Ferrer Aguayo, who became a nun, and she is known as the Mother Teresa of Puerto Rico. She always showed a lot of caring for the poor. And after studying for her master's degree, she traveled to the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia, to the streets of Brooklyn, went back to Puerto Rico and started many service centers to help the poor. And for this, President Clinton awarded her the Medal of Freedom. So you can see her here in her many different roles and spaces, a remarkable woman. Felicitas Mendez, an amazing Puerto Rican activist from the Southwest, who was born in Juncos. Her family moved to Texas and then California, and there she made an enormous contribution. Feeling the racism at the time, and along with her husband Gonzalo, they experienced the fact that their children were not allowed in the schools in Southern California. And they led a fight from 1946 that actually helped to desegregate schools in the Southwest and set a precedent for the nation. She would take care of the family business while he would meet with community leaders, and she was a leader herself. They filed a lawsuit on behalf of 5,000 Latino school kids, and this was very instrumental in desegregating not only the schools, but the parks and the pools and the movie theaters in not only California, but the Southwest, and paved the way for Brown versus Board of Education. Her daughter, Sylvia Mendez, was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011, as you can see on the far right, by President Obama. You see Sylvia here also with her mom, who she adored, and she has been on a crusade to tell this story throughout the country. And they also had a stamp that was made in their honor. So these are some photographs of that period. Julia de Burgos, who's such an amazing poet, best known throughout Latin America and Puerto Rico. She had themes about social justice and being discriminated against, and wrote about the struggles of life, and also about intimacy, and also about her beloved Puerto Rico. She also wrote many different collections and died far too soon. But after her death, she was awarded a doctorate at the university at Humacao, and continues to be honored throughout not only Puerto Rico, but in the United States with statues and a stamp, and all of her poetry just being renowned because it's so beautiful. Antonia Pantoja, some of you may know her. She was an educator, social worker, a feminist, civil rights leader, and the founder of Aspida, the Puerto Rican Forum, Boricua College, and many other organizations. The first Puerto Rican woman to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Johnson in 1966. Founding Aspira, I'm a former aspirante, she made a huge difference for the poor educational youth and helping them to attain higher education. She also won a landmark lawsuit to help bilingual education in the city. And Angelo Falcon said she was the single most important figure in the development of the Puerto Rican community in New York and in the nation. And you could see her here in her many different roles. Here she got the Presidential Medal of Freedom on the far left. And schools, many schools and other agencies are named with her wonderful name. Rita Moreno, you may all, of course, know as the Hollywood legend, the first and only Puerto Rican or Latina to be an EGOT. And many people would love to do this, but very few have. So that means she got an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award. And this is a very unique experience for anyone in the field of Hollywood. And she opened doors in Hollywood for Latina actors, enduring racism, sexism, stereotype casting, and just breaking through that ceiling to help others become actors and to be welcomed into that field. She wrote a memoir about her experiences and continues to act. And you could see the memoir on the right-hand side and many pictures of her throughout her long life. Miriam Colon, also an actor and founder of the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater in New York City, gave access to live theater in poor communities and starred in many films as well, such as One-Eyed Jacks and other important movies that can still be seen on TV if you search them. She was awarded the Dramalog Award for Outstanding Performance and also got Barack Obama to award her the National Medal of the Arts in 2015. Here are some of her pictures or photographs of her in many different roles and getting the award. Sonia Nieto is a good friend and a professor emerita of language, literacy, and culture at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and has taught at every single level from elementary all the way through the university and doctoral level. She is a leading author and teacher leader in the field of multicultural education and has influenced teachers all over the United States and teacher educators, especially in the way of teaching for equity and social justice. And she has won many awards and honorary doctorates. And here are some of the photos of her with her many books on the upper right, on the left, and in the center, Affirming Diversity, which is one of the most important books in education today. Antonia Darder is also an educator, a scholar, an artist, a poet, and activist, and she teaches at Loyola Marymount University as a presidential endowed chair, and was influenced by Paulo Freire, as was Sonia and myself. And that has really influenced her life's work in seeking to liberate oppressed communities through education. She also has won numerous awards for her writing and her work in the arts. And you can see some of the pictures of her in action here. Nydia Velázquez is the first Puerto Rican woman elected to the United States Congress. Being born in Yabucoa, she received her bachelor's degree from the University of Puerto Rico and ran for Congress in 1992 for District 12 and later in 2013 for District 7. She advocates for the rights of Puerto Ricans, for pro-choice, and defends Puerto Rico at every opportunity, including confronting the former president for denying the deaths of 3,000 Puerto Ricans after Hurricane Maria, suggesting that he needed a few lessons in history because there's responsibility with the invasion that happened in 1898. Here she is in action, also as someone who defends immigrants and, of course, being the Grand Marshal for the Puerto Rican Day Parade, along with many other work. Here is Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who was born in the Bronx to Puerto Rican parents, as you know, and graduated with one of the highest honors of summa cum laude from Princeton, and received her Juris Doctor from Yale Law School, also where she was the editor of the Yale Law Journal, which is a very high honor. She has played an active role in many different boards, and she was nominated, of course, to the Supreme Court in 2009 by President Obama, and continues to identify with the concern for the rights of defendants, for criminal justice reform, and really comes to defend issues when it comes to race, gender, and ethnic identity. And here she is in her many different roles, along with being a very young girl who was ill and overcame her illness to become this amazing Supreme Court Justice. Barbara Ferrer is Dr. Ferrer, a nationally known public health leader with 30 years of experience as a leader, as a philanthropist. She is currently the director of Los Angeles County Department of Public Health and has led the county through the coronavirus crisis. She also was an executive director in Boston for the Public Health Commission and has led many different health programs in that area, seeing different improvement in health, for example, in childhood obesity, smoking, and infant mortality. And she continues to serve and do amazing work. You could see her here in her many different roles. And I found a cute picture of her as a child here and at different ages. Mayra Santos Febres is an accomplished writer and professor at the University of Puerto Rico in Rio Piedras, and is also a great advocate for marginalized communities as well. She is an anti-racist and activist for this cause. And she has written many different poems that point to this. She has won various awards for her work, including the Golden Letters Award and the Short Story Award. And she says, leo para alimentar una visión profética del pasado, recobrar la memoria que me han negado, descubrir la que todavía no cuaja completa, e imaginar ese mundo que aún no es posible y que me gustaría llamar hogar. So she has beautiful writing and continues to serve in this capacity as an author. You could see her here in her many different roles and promoting her work. These are just a few outstanding Boricua women representing those trendsetters who continue to make a difference for different communities throughout the country. And we want to thank them, not only for their work, but for setting a precedent for our youth to be able to follow. And we have new strong leaders that are rising from the Puerto Rican community, and look forward to watching them make their mark. One such activist and wonderful woman who has been an amazing trendsetter in her field is Antonia Jiménez, and we are so fortunate to have her with us today. She's the director of the Department of Public Social Services for the County of Los Angeles, and today she will be receiving she is the recipient of the NACOPRW SoCal Orgullo Boricua Award for 2021, and we're just so pleased to have her with us today. We're excited to hear her voice, to hear about her experiences, and for that, I will then pass the mic over to our dear Grisel, who will then be able to share some information about her. She muted.
Thank you, Anaida, for such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure you all learned something like I have. Every time I look at the PowerPoint, I learn something new. So thank you so much for enlightening us and reminding us that as women, we do hold an important role in history, especially within our culture. So saludos, everybody, this afternoon. On a personal level, es con mucho orgullo y mucho placer that I introduce a friend, an adopted member of my familia, Antonia Jiménez. Antonia and I have been friends for 35 plus years. We met through my niece, who's joined us this afternoon, while we both lived in the East Coast before becoming Californian transplants. We have never lost touch with each other. Antonia relocated from Boston in the mid-2000s, while I relocated to Hawaii for 16 years. 4 years ago, I also ended up in Southern California and met up with Antonia. My husband and I were honored to be asked to be witness at her swearing installation ceremony when she became the director of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services, a job she still holds. I have many great memories of travel, family events, and even attending the Alma Latino Music Awards with Antonia. Boy, that was a great evening. And my introduction to California, by the way, in 2001. I'm so happy that today she's been honored with the NACOPRW Southern California Orgullo Boricua Award, and that she's featured as a Puerto Rican woman making a difference in this panel today. Let me tell you a little bit about her background from her bio. Antonia Jiménez was appointed on September 25th, 2018 to serve as director of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Social Services. With nearly 14,000 employees and an annual budget of more than $4 billion, this agency is the largest social services agency in the nation. It provides services to over 3.7 million low-income residents. Antonia also served as the chief deputy for the agency and Deputy Chief Executive Officer for the Children and Families Wellbeing Cluster. She has over 30 years of experience as a senior executive in the private and public sector, specifically within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, she served as the Chief Administrative Officer for the Executive Office of Health and Human Services for Massachusetts, where she designed and directed a $2.4 billion reform effort. She served as the Special Assistant to the Governor of Massachusetts and Chief Financial Officer for Massachusetts Executive Office of Education. She has also worked as a Senior Manager for Deloitte Consulting, undertaking major projects in New York City, Pennsylvania's Department of Public Welfare, and Solano County's Health and Human Services Department. Antonia earned a Bachelor of Science from Emmanuel College and has attended senior executive programs at Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government and the Massachusetts Technical Institute. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Antonia and to also at this point turn over the conversation to Antonia and Anaida. Thank you for attending.
Okay, so we'll unmute and we'll start our conversation. I have some questions that I wanted to ask Antonia, and she's going to graciously enter into this conversation so we can learn more about her and her work. So Antonia, how did you wind up in the West Coast in California, and what has been your trajectory? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first, let me just start by thanking your organization for this great recognition. When you look at the PowerPoint that you put together, you feel like I haven't done enough compared to all those terrific women that you have highlighted. But I want to thank you. I also want to thank Giselle, who has been a long time friend. I am her adopted child. I shall remember that. And eat her.
Hold on, we're having a little bit of difficulty with the.
Okay, can you hear me now? Let me get closer. How about right now? Okay. So, so thank you all. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Griselle for inviting me to participate. So I started my trajectory. Let me just give you a little background about me. So I grew up in New York City, where in the 60s and the 70s, I called it the capital of Puerto Rico. Everybody was there from Puerto Rico. And then my parents relocated to Boston. And there is where I really went to school there, and I developed myself professionally there. So I started off as a student intern for the Department of Children and Family Services and ended up working all the way up to the governor's office. So I had a lot of different jobs from CFOs to working for higher ed. And it's always just an opportunity, I think, to just gain a lot of experience and knowledge. And so my final job was in Massachusetts was as Chief Administrative Officer for Health and Human Services, where I reported to Governor Romney. And I worked for 4 different governors in Massachusetts. So when Romney decided that he was going to take a run at presidency and not run a second term in Massachusetts, I sort of decided this is time to leave Massachusetts because, you know, in Massachusetts, you could be a Democrat and work for the Republican Party, but the Democrats won't take you back. They won't keep you in the position, so they'll ask you to leave. So I didn't wait to get the invitation to leave, and I just said, I'm going to California. I had no job. But then Deloitte Consulting asked me to join their firm, and so they relocated me to Southern California to help grow their practice. And so I did that for about 5 years, but all my projects were primarily in the East Coast. So I did welfare reform for Pennsylvania. I wrote the mayor's, Bloomberg's strategic plans for his last 864 days in office. And so I did a lot of major reform efforts. And out of the blue one day, I got a call from the CEO of LA County asking me if I wanted to come work for him. And so I said, oh, we'll meet with him. But 5 years later, I did join LA County, and I'm really happy to be here. And in 2018, as Brazil mentioned, I was made the director for the Department of Social Services. You're on mute.
Tell us about the work that you're doing now in Los Angeles.
Well, this is a unique time right now and a great opportunity. So like Grisel said, we serve 1 in 3 LA County residents. We have about 3.5 million customers. I like to call them customers. I think they are my customers. And so we provide anything from cash assistance to housing, to healthcare, to food. So we have about all of these programs with the goal of really to stabilize families. We serve primarily low-income families, and they don't have enough to make ends meet. And while this isn't enough, we don't give them enough. My goal as I take on this trajectory now is to really try to transition families not only to be stabilized, but to move up the economic mobility scale so that they don't need our services. But when they do leave our services, they're well equipped and able to maintain a steady life. So, I feel like health and food insecurity, all of that, we need to address all that, because when you address all that, you're really addressing the health and well-being of a family. And so that is our goal in the next couple of years, is to really transform our service delivery model and improve the lives of many families here in Los Angeles.
So tell us a little bit about some of those accomplishments you've experienced, as well as some of the challenges. You're a Latina woman leader in a large metropolis. What are some of the challenges you face?
I think the biggest challenges I face that I've always been the one and only, the one woman and the only Latina and the only person of color, right, in a room. And so even when I came to LA, I was shocked that I was the one and only person of color leading an organization at the highest level. And so when you're at that level, you constantly, I call it, you have to prove yourself. You have to earn your wins over and over and over again. Even though you've accomplished so much, every time you go into a new job, people always say, let's see what she can do. Let's see how she can handle it. Let's see if she can be successful, right? And to me, let's see, it's okay, let's see, let's go. I'm in the proof that I can do this, but not only because of me, but because, Latinos are very talented, and we have the ability to do whatever anybody else does. And the fact that when they hire you, but they hire you questioning whether or not you have the ability to do the job, I think that is the most frustrating part of getting promoted and doing the work that we do. you know. So to me, I think that's the biggest challenge I have.
Amazing. Well, let's turn the page a little bit towards Puerto Rico. You are a Boricua. You started in the East Coast, of course, before you came out to the West Coast. What do you treasure the most about your Puerto Rican culture? And how do you celebrate that identity, that Puerto Rican identity? What are the things that you love the most or miss the most?
I think I miss being in the West Coast. Specifically, I miss the culture, right? I miss the food, the music, the Puerto Ricanness, as I like to call it, you know. So I miss all of that from the East Coast. But in Puerto Rico, I miss, you know, going to see my grandmother. You know, I would go see her. And my mom used to take us once a year. But even when I got older, I still continued to go see her. And, you know, and she would sit there and tell me jokes. And halfway through the jokes, she would laugh so hard. I didn't understand anything, but I just sat there and laughed with her, you know, and I got to see her. I got to see her in la finca, you know. She grew her own food, her own plantains and her own coffee, and she had her own sheep and cows and horses. And, you know, I kind of liked that she was, and she lived to 96, and she drank and she danced until she was 96, you know. So she lived her life fully, and I always feel like I have some of abuelita in me, you know, because I love to dance, I love the music, you know, I love to eat the food. So, you know, and then you can't go to Puerto Rico. Whenever I go to Puerto Rico, I always go what I call beach hopping, you know. Some people go bar hopping, but I like to go beach hopping because there's so many beautiful beaches in Puerto Rico. And it's really great to just see the culture, the warmth of the people in Puerto Rico is really amazing. And you know, people don't really, when you say that, they don't understand that. But I just had a friend move there from California, and he said, I get it. They're warm, friendly people, and I get it. So, you know, that's a piece of Puerto Rico that I really like. And someday I hope to go back. I've never lived there, but someday I want to live there for a little bit, just to really enjoy the culture and really learn about the rich history that the Puerto Rican island has to offer everybody.
Well, I think Grisel had some coquito that our NACOPRW chapter made for our annual fundraiser.
Yes. It was delicious.
That should bring good memories back.
Yes.
So we'll make sure we'll be assured to make sure that you get some more of that this holiday season.
Right.
So another question we had is, you know, what has influenced you in your life? Like who are the people that you feel from the past or the present who have had an influence on you, impacted you?
You know, I would have to say the one person that's impacted me the most, of course, has been my mom. Okay? The third grade education, really like didn't know how to help us in many ways, but really always encouraged and supported us, you know, and she was always there. You know, I'll tell you a story about Emmanuel College. So we moved so much that I went to about 10 different schools from K through 12. And when I went to Emmanuel specifically because I wanted Emmanuel. It was a small liberal arts school, and I wanted to be a name and not a number, you know. And so when I got there, I got this message from my counselor. And the counselor says, oh, dear Antonia, we'd like to meet you and help you with your career path. And I was like, this is great. This is why I came here. When I got there, the counselor said, well, you know, you want to study biology, and you know, it's kind of a little complicated, and the math is pretty difficult. And so I think you should become a UN translator. Well, I don't even speak Spanish at that time. So I was like, oh, okay, no. Okay. Watch me get my biology degree. And also watch me learn Spanish, because now I'm going to be labeled, I'm going to learn the language. And so that was a challenging time. And I remember going to my mother and my mom saying, every time you feel lazy and you don't want to study, remember they expect you to fail. And to me, that was the impetus that always kept going. And 4 years later, I went and showed her my degree. And I told that to the dean of the school. Here's what she said. And the dean actually talked to her afterwards. because it was so demoralizing. And thank God I was strong enough to say, screw you, I'm going to get it done.
That's right. That's right. That's what marks you as a Boricua woman, strong and speaking your mind. And you know, it's really important also, as you look back and to see how these different experiences, even though you traveled from school to school, you met people along the way who made a difference. Sometimes it's that negative person who forces you to do something that, you know, you say, I'm going to do this because I have to prove it to you. Do you remember anybody, you know, who you felt was like someone you wanted to emulate, somebody who you feel like, this is a person I respect and I want to be like that person? Is there anybody in your life like that?
You know, when I was in 9th grade, I had this teacher, this English teacher, and I was always engaged and reading Shakespeare and asking questions. But one day I just wasn't feeling it. And I wasn't feeling it because both of my parents got laid off. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to get a job. And so I went to him, and he actually came to me. He said, what's wrong? You're not engaged. And he connected me. I said, I need a job. So he actually just next day gives me this little piece of paper and says, go over there at 3 o'clock. They're waiting for you. Don't be late. So I get on, I get on the bus, I go. And when I got there, I ended up working for Judge Garrett, who was desegregation judge. I had no idea who he was. I didn't really understand desegregation was going on, but I just worked with him. And there was this one lady, her name was Ann Sapp, I will never forget her. And I had to do an assignment for the judge. And it was pretty nice, you know, it was pretty thorough, but it didn't look pretty. Like I had erased stuff and written all over it. So the content was there, but the paper didn't look pretty. So Ann called me into her office and said, young lady, let me tell you something. You are a person of color. People will not read your documents unless they look pretty. So it's thorough, you got all the information out. You got all of these scratches and all of this marks. I want you to, from now on, take the time to make your documents represent who you are. And till this day, I carry that with me. You know, everybody that works with me knows my documents. They have a specific style and a specific look. You know, they're factual, and I check it 10 million times. And so those are the people that you sort of meet along the way that you never think, you know, like a 10-minute conversation is going to transform your life. But it actually did, you know, and she was very, very instrumental, very helpful. And I've had a lot of men who, you know, one specific guy is Stephen Cadiz. He was a Jewish guy who worked in Massachusetts. And for some reason, he took a liking to me, and he really gave me jobs and opportunities that I would never go and apply for on my own. But he always helped me throughout the cycle. So you meet people that you don't even know why they're helping you, but they help you. And, you know, to this day, he and I are such great friends as well. So it's a pleasure to meet those kind of people along the path.
That's wonderful. And it sounds like you know when to sort out the advice of when to take advice and when not to. So that I think has been important in following, you know, your path. So congratulations on that, because we don't always make the right choices. And it seems like you've done a good job of that. So is there anything about your life that you want to tell us about that maybe we didn't touch upon? Or perhaps you have some comments that you'd like to make, that we give you that opportunity.
Well, I could tell you, being here and being Latina and being Puerto Rican and not knowing anybody, this is like a great surprise for me, because when Grisel told me we had a Puerto Rican organization, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. You know, I think that, you know, of course it had to be Grisel, who comes from Hawaii, and connected you to connect with me, even though I've been here all this time, right? But I call her Grisel the socialite. She knows everybody and anybody. We'll be connected in no time. And so thank you to Grisel for the connection. But, you know, I'd like to be able to meet with other Puerto Rican women and do some great things. And I have this great project that I'm working on, and I'm hoping to transform how government provides services to single moms and really change their life, because if we could change the life of that single mom, we're going to change generations of lives going forward. And so that is my passion going forward. I'm going to do it. I have a lot of money, thank God, in my department. So I'm going to use it to hire an economist, hire whoever I need. But if if this is a field you're interested in, transforming single women, single moms is one of my future goals, and it's one of the things I'm going to work on. So I'll put that out to you guys, to support.
Well, we just wanted to let you know that NACOPRW SoCal is here to support your efforts, and in any way that we can, we'd love to. If it's mentorship or whatever, in whatever way we can be of help, our members and our board is here to support your efforts, because they're really amazing and helping people to lift themselves up to whatever dreams and hopes they aspire to. I think that's a wonderful goal for everyone. So thank you so much for spending this time with us. We've learned a lot, and we hope to continue having opportunities to chat with you. We are at the point where we'd like to recognize you with our NACOPRW SoCal Orgullo Boricua Award for 2021. Because of COVID and the fact that we can't be together physically, we mailed it to you, and I think you received it, and you have it right there. I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna share it through our sharing screen, because that way everybody can take a little bit of a closer look. And just to say, I think people can see it now, that it gives us such a great honor to recognize you with the Orgullo Boricua 2021 Award, to celebrate the important work that you do, and with such dedication and perseverance, and the many contributions that you make to improve the lives of so many people. You make us extremely proud. And again, we want to just let you know that if there's any way that we can support your efforts, we are here. So if you have any comments, congratulations. We are so honored to have you in our midst. And again, thank you and congratulations for your award. And if you wanted to make a comment, then I think we can unmute and have everybody just applaud.
So thank you. I mean, cherish this. You get a lot of awards, but one that's close and near to your heart is your culture and your heritage. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to recognize me. I appreciate it. I want to thank Elva for coming, my longtime friend. She's been there with me through thick and thin. And so we worked many years together. And Giselle, of course, thank you so much for just being who you are and how supportive you are of me. I really appreciate it. So thank you all. And I'm so glad to meet you all.
It's wonderful to meet you too. And so I think that we can unmute everyone, and just say, let everybody applaud Antonia for her getting this award.
Bravo, bravo.
I'm gonna put it on.
Wepa.
We can have now the opportunity to bring closure to this event, and again invite you to any other future events and to our group whenever you wish. And I'll turn it over now to our first Vice President, Marjorie, so that she can bring closure to our event. Again, thank you. Un beso y un abrazo, Boricua.
Well, thank you so much for this inspiring presentation. Truly, what a gift. Antonia, thank you for sharing the time with us. We're so honored. And to all of our participants, we hope you enjoy this evening or this afternoon's presentation. This conversation was truly inspiring. If you want to know more about what we do at NACOPRW SoCal, we have wonderful presentations about the history of Puerto Rico and so many more. If you want to watch again this presentation, we will have it in our website. Along with what Antonia was saying, our goal, as you all know, is to empower women and girls, particularly Latinas, through the work that we do. We are currently in the process of selecting 2 awardees for our scholarship. that we do every year, and we are so happy to be on that process. So stay tuned. We will announce who are going to be those women pretty soon. And I hope you all received the newsletter that we sent out to all of you. And Antonia, we will share that with you as well. It's a new newsletter that we decided to do, and it's quite it's nice, you know, to have a little bit of Puerto Rico, you know, to read about a little bit of what connects us together. So with that, I'm just gonna leave you all. I don't want to deflate any of this wonderful experience, but if anybody wants to share a comment or a question, you can do that through the chat, and we will try to address that at that time. So again, thank you so much, and good evening to everybody.
So Marie perhaps can see if there are any.
Thank you.
Comments. Marie, is there any comments or?
No comments. Very appreciative. Everyone's very appreciative. Very inspiring and deserving of this award. I think great presentation. So a lot of appreciation and accolades for the efforts put into this presentation and just this event in general.
Any of our board members?
I think I saw a comment from someone, if that person's still here, said that worked for 18 years in the same department.
Oh, Roxanne.
I'm still here. I was just making a comment about how when you were talking about the 6 degrees of separation, and then Antonia started talking about different places she's been, and I'm like, oh my God, we've been like just missing each other. Just kind of swirling around in different circles, but in the same place. Because I worked at DCF in Massachusetts for 18 years. I'm from New York. I grew up in New York.
Who did you work for?
In DCF, I was a domestic violence specialist for a long time and worked with single moms and their kids who were being abused by their partners and leaving, and consultant with the DCF, the social work staff. And then I moved into the ombudsman's office there with the commissioner. So I had a lot of commissioners, let's just say.
Who was the commissioner?
The last commissioner was Linda Spears. I had Jeff Locke, Harry Spence.
Oh yeah, Harry.
Harry Spence was my favorite.
Oh.
So we just, you know, it was true. We are 6 degrees, and here we are both showing up at this spot and us never having met, and here we are.
Yeah.
So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you for your work. Working, you know, in your field is an amazing contribution. So
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Of course.
Thank you. So yeah, when I came to Boston, I was a single mom, and Antonia was one of the first people I met. I found myself working in state government, and I met Antonia, and to say the least, like, she took me under her wing. We became friends. But we were also colleagues. And Antonia really, really helped me in battling through some of my, you know, that I put myself into a box, so to speak, as a Latina single mom. She just pushed me. She pushed me in a good way and helped me to grow professionally, as well as personally, but mostly professionally. And I learned so much from her. But I am one of her examples of single mom that she helped, you know, back 30 years ago. And she's a great friend, but she's also, you know, she was a great colleague. She's very difficult to work with for good reason. I give a lot of credit to Antonia. I love you very much. Hope to see you soon in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I'm on my way there.
And to my Titi Grizel. That the same thing goes to my Titi Grizel. She's been a great mentor and a great example, for sure.
Love you, Vita.
I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everyone. This was wonderful.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. And I think we should all unmute again and here today. So let's unmute. Yay.
Thank you.
Oh, nice job.
Thank
Nice
you all
job.
for being here. Thank you to the board and the planning committee, and especially to you, Antonia, for gracing us with your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Anaida, for moderating. Good job. Excellent.
I loved it. I love meeting you, Antonia, and seeing all our Boricua women together in this space. And so power to the women. Here we are. And amazingly, it's 3 minutes to 5. I am so proud of us. It's a record time.
Learning.
And we're learning, and it takes a little time, but we're beginning to understand that it's on the clock. And so we hope that people in the future who view this enjoy it, and to continue to comment on our YouTube page, our website, and also the YouTube page that Gloria will make available to everyone. And so let your friends know that that is available, Gloria, right through our website.
Yes, all the presentations are placed on our website and also on our YouTube channel. As soon as I have it ready there, we send a message on our social media. So you can go and check it out.
So if you want to share this conversation with others, you can send them there. And I think that they will enjoy that and other presentations that we've done. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Un
Good
beso.
night,
Un
everybody.
abrazo.
Thank you, comadres.
So Maria, I guess.
Hasta luego, comadre.
Increíble. Increíble.